aspect would be really difficult. Maybe we can start with like kind of how you started training for it. So you come back from New Zealand, and you start training for it. How did that look?
Yeah, so the first race is June.
Yeah.
So I got back from New Zealand in November. And I was very depleted, and maybe we'll focus on that a little bit later. But, I was in starvation mode. I, put my body in a place I had never really put it before.
Yeah.
So the first things first, there was a few months of recovery. I've never once lost like my cycle ever in all my 20 years of endurance, like training. And I did. And I believe that was the combination of like the starvation and the stress. And, we lost weight quickly. And so I wanted, before I did anything other than very low effort, I wanted to make sure my hormones were back in line and that my cycle came back. And luckily it came back pretty quick. I think it took 2 months. So I want to say in January, February, it was time to start building and focusing on what it was going to take for me to complete the Grand Slam. So training at the beginning looked like building just a very, very hardy base. One of my strengths is my aerobic fitness. I can kind of run, slow is such a relative word, but I can kind of run slow forever, right? Like that's, I feel like we all have our different strengths. And even as a kid playing sports, running track, my coaches would say that, so that's just, so in the back of my brain, you get those little things as a little kid. So that I've always kind of had this almost like, well, I can run forever. I'm fine. Right. They told me that when I was little and I just believed them. So I'm like, wasn't the best with the ball, but I could beat someone down the field. So I always have had that in the back of my mind. I can run forever. So when I learned about 100-mile races, I was like, oh, I got to try that, like
that's me.
I think that might be me. So the first things first, it was building in the winter. Sometimes it's hard to get up high in the Wasatch. You can, great climbing. And I definitely did that, but it was just making my aerobic engine, my base so sturdy, so wide. So all those other aspects of training I could build on top of it would be supported by a lot of base. So a lot of, easy, low heart rate running and some really focused, specific strength training. I knew I'd be on the trails all summer and I didn't want to get injured. So a ton of like single leg focus, a ton of strength focus on what I feel is best for a trail athlete. Not that that doesn't transfer over into anybody who runs, but trail running in particular is a one-legged sport. You're hopping back and forth so much. And so really focus on building my strength training back up, and not in terms of like aesthetics, in terms of functional training that's going to like give me the best chance at not getting injured and to be able to, for my body to support what I was about to ask it to do.
So for you, like, I mean, you're a mom of 5. You mentioned that before.
Yeah.
How high a volume are you able to get? Like when you say you're building like this big base of aerobic volume, what is that for you?
It varies.
Yeah.
My husband jokes around like, I think I am efficient. I think I do. Sometimes it's not much. I think that I tapped out, not counting the only 100-mile weeks I had were the weeks I ran 100 miles.
Awesome.
I think that I had some really strong weeks with a ton of climbing in like the late spring, in the 80s, I think 85. I love to hover between like 55 and 65. It's super manageable for me. My body can handle more than that, but my schedule oftentimes cannot.
Yeah.
So I'm making, so that's where I'll have like my bread and butter, just to where I can do that in my sleep. It doesn't tax my system, my resting heart rate's low. And then I'll be like, okay, I'll look at the calendar that month ahead of time. I'm like, the third week in March, no one has a birthday party. No one has a soccer tournament or a dance competition. I think I can hit 85 miles that week. I can get up early and run. I can run while the kids are in school. I can run. Oh, Graham, you're going to be home early on Tuesday. Can I run that? Can I run in the evening? You've got dinner, so I will say, and this is a privilege, I have an amazing partner. I could not do that without he's 110 supportive of my dreams. I'm 110% supportive of his dreams. And so it definitely takes teamwork, because in our family, we want our kids to see us reaching for their dreams because we want them reaching for their dreams. And so we are really big on that. So the only way that I can make this work is teamwork, right? It's not going to be possible without that. And then getting very creative with my schedule. So I have a lot of weeks that hover between 55 and 68, you know, just under 70. That's like hard for me to get on a busy week. I'm always like, oh, I'm trying to get there.
Yeah.
But then I just have some really strong weeks, maybe every third week or something like that. I'm like, okay, I can, because oftentimes I'm not running when my kids are around. I'm getting the leftovers. So it's like, can I hit that 5:30 a.m. alarm, you know, or can I run on a lot of times when I'm big in training, it's running on my treadmill at night after all my kids are in bed.
Yeah, I remember seeing that because I've been following you for a minute. You put out amazing content. You guys should look at it if you haven't. But I remember seeing you like posting on your story or posting a reel about like getting 10 miles in on like an inclined treadmill, and it would be like 11 p.m. or something. Yeah. And that's work. Like that's hard work.
And that's where it's like, how bad do you want it? Because yes, I love The Office and I would rather be cuddling up with my honey, having a bowl of sugar cereal, watching The Office. Like that sounds amazing. And that is amazing. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I do that too. Yeah. But it's making that decision like, what's the goal right now? Yeah. And so how about we do that Sunday night? But I'm like, I got to go down to the basement. Like, I just got to do it. I got to do it. And the first 2 miles suck. Anything after 9 p.m. is I
hate running at night. I hate it so much.
If I do like a late evening run, solid. Yeah. I love it, you know. But late evenings, I'm usually soccer mom, dance mom, getting dinner on the table, helping whoever is home with homework. It's that window from the time my kids go to school till they're in bed. Those are not training hours for me. Yeah. Occasionally I get lucky. I'm like, oh, I'm at the soccer field. I've got 40 minutes while he warms up. There's always a running outfit in the car, in every car. I've got a pair
every
of running
single
shoes.
Car.
Yeah, there's like a first aid kit. There's a running kit, right? So I definitely squeeze things in the in-betweens. But yeah, it takes a lot of pivoting, a lot of getting creative, and then just getting out the door, because I have to run at weird times when you don't want to run, right? Or by getting out the door, that might mean on the treadmill, right?
Yeah.
Or
so whatever that means.
I'm all over the place, but hopefully that answers your question a little bit.
This episode is brought to you by Mercedes-Benz Van Center Warner, Utah's largest selection of recreational and commercial vans for all purposes, new, pre-owned, and rentals. They are passionate about supporting the running and active community in Utah. Check them out at mbvancenterwarner.com. I feel like too, those late night treadmill runs might have helped with like the grind of the Grand Slam. 100. Just like not being super tired, not wanting to do it, and then doing it and like getting it done.
Yeah, no, I agree. And in fact, I feel like it's helped me so much with the mental side of things over the years, running those weird, I did a midnight marathon on the treadmill. Now, I don't ask my athletes to do a midnight marathon on the treadmill, but I do feel like in 100-mile training, it's really important that you go do a night run or two. Yeah. When your legs are tired, when you did a long run the day before, you know, it's important, not just for your legs, but for your mind.
Yeah. Yeah. I've only ran one, but on this last block, a friend suggested doing a morning and an evening run. Yep. Just because you're never going to want to do the evening run. Yep. And I was like, that's disgusting. That's not going to help. But then I did it and it like helped so much. Yes.
Yeah. So in my athletes 100-mile blocks, like when they're getting close and you're into that race, like specificity, that there's always at least one of those on a Saturday or Sunday. And it'll be like 13 a.m. miles, 13 p.m. miles. I'm like, I'm so sorry. Good luck. Find a friend. Yeah. You have to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Disgusting. But it does work.
Yeah. Yes. Disgusting. But effective.
Yes. Yeah. Disgusting but effective. Yeah. So maybe let's get into your first race, which was Old Dominion. Yeah. Okay. Going into it, what were you nervous about? What were you excited about? Did you still have like residual stuff from the Race to Survive?
So residual stuff from Race to Survive, my gut was not the same. So that's the only thing that I was nervous about. There's a lot of like data and scientific research on like fasting, sometimes for prolonged periods, how you can like reset your gut. And I think it did some good things for me, but it also did some bad things. And it's me being like mature enough and like disciplined enough to say, you know what, gluten is not working for me right now. Or you know, so we're still working on it, to be honest. I'm a year out and I'm still definitely making headways. Yeah. But I was nervous about it, that it would affect the way I was able to consume calories enough to perform the way that like my fitness was there. But yeah. And it definitely had its effects.
So when you say like not the same, Do you just mean like it can't digest things well?
Yeah.
Okay.
For me, mainly digestion,
Okay.
digestion issues, and then maybe some like, I wouldn't necessarily call them full-blown food allergies, but food sensitivities.
Okay.
Kind of like my good, better, best on my body has shifted. And I'm like, gosh, I can't really get away with eating these things without having like dire consequences.
Dire.
Well, yes, and I mean dire. And also for me, I just, unfortunately or fortunately, my athletic performance is on weekly training as well as in races is greatly affected by what I consume.
Yeah.
And some people, like my husband's a tank. He's a 100-mile runner, fast marathoner. He can eat anything and it's fine. And he just goes. And I like eat the wrong thing and I like barf for an hour, you know, and I'm just like,
that's not good.
This is not fair.
Yeah, that's not
fair. But this is my reality. Nothing's fair. So this is what we're dealing with. This is what we're up against. So going into Old Dominion, I definitely felt fit and ready. Do I feel like I hit my training the way that I wanted to perfectly? Do I feel like I executed all the volume I wanted? No. But that rarely happens. Like I'm not a professional runner. Like but I in my brain I want to perform like one.
Yeah.
But I'm like this is not my full-time job. I do it part-time and I have to. So I went in feeling ready. Did I go in feeling as ready as I thought I would? No, but that rarely happens. But I certainly felt excited and that I had enough fitness under my belt to accomplish what I sought out to do. Now, I think the two things I was most nervous about was how my gut would respond late in the race, one, and then two, making sure that like my pride and my ego stayed down low, because I do love to run me a fast race, and that's not what this was ever about. That for me, I knew that me getting through the Grand Slam wouldn't be trying to run all these fast times. So paying attention to my heart rate, paying attention to my effort, and finding that sweet spot. I coached myself through this. That sometimes I have a coach, sometimes I don't, but a lot of good friends, mentors, some of them which were our professional ultra runners, chatting with, going back and forth. And what we kind of came up with on my goals was to find that sweet spot between not running too fast, but more time on my feet means more time to recover. And recovery was such a huge part of the Grand Slam, right? So how much longer is it going to take me to recover if I'm out on my feet for 30 hours versus 23 hours, right?
Yeah.
So threading that very thin needle of line of trying to hit that sweet spot. So that was the goal. And I figured we'll listen to my body and I'll slow down if I need to slow down, right? So trying to find that spot. So Old Dominion started out good. It went really well until it didn't. My heart rate, my effort was manageable, but a theme with all the races, ran into some really severe nausea and barfing late into the race. And everybody's like, puke and rally. This isn't a puke and rally thing. Like I've done that before. You puke, you feel better, you move on. Yeah. For me, it was like puke until there's nothing left for like hours and hours and hours, and try to move in between it. So, but I was able to work through it and eventually keep it at bay. I just had to stop eating. So I really didn't have any calories the last 30 miles.
Oh my gosh.
Besides like a few sips of like Crank, which is higher in, sodium, potassium, calories, carbs in general.
Yeah.
So it was just like sipping that, like a little slow IV and water.
Did you have muscle cramps?
No, I don't.
That's
muscle
pretty
cramps.
lucky then.
Yeah, muscle cramps. I can count on one hand in all my races how many muscle cramps I've ever had.
Oh, really?
So I just that's cramping isn't the way my body responds. You took a drink. I had to take a drink.
Yeah.
Looks like the right call.
I was thirsty.
So not a lot of muscle cramps. But I was able to rally and kind of, I really wanted to go sub 24. I was, honestly looking at the top women Grand Slam times going, maybe I could squeak in top 10 if everything went right. But that was like the tertiary goal. That was like, if I'm feeling great on every race. But in the back of my mind, I was like, well, I need to keep the times under and my legs felt great. My heart rate was low. My fitness felt amazing the entire time. It was just my gut. So I ended up finishing, I think, just over 23 hours. I had a couple really rough hours in the middle of the night where there was like 30, 40-minute miles for a long time because of all of the nausea. Yeah. But I got through that and I was able to rally a little bit and come in under 24. So,
which is amazing, especially for like no calories the last 30 miles.
Yeah.
I think mentioned something on Instagram about like being in second for a while.
Yes.
And having to like grapple with letting that go.
Oh, I forgot about that. Oh yeah, that was brutal because that wasn't my intention,
Yeah.
you know, to be. And then like, yeah, I think Graham or someone in my crew or it's maybe someone on the course let me know. And I was feeling so good. I was like, well, shoot, maybe I can podium and do the Grand Slam. I was humbled quickly a few hours after that. Like, stay in your lane, sister. Like, nice try.
Like, wait.
But I was sick for a couple days after that race. And actually, this has never happened. I mean, like, I had like a wheelchair in the airport. I could not walk.
Wow.
If I walked, I would start throwing up. Like, so this isn't normal.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This isn't like your normal, like, oh, I got to figure this out. Like, I'm eating, you know, yeah. So that part's still a work in progress.
So after that, you're like in the wheelchair at the airport because you like can't walk.
Yeah.
Did you ever think like, I don't know if this is possible? Like, what was the debate in your mind on that? Or were you just like full steam ahead? I'm figuring this out.
Full steam ahead,
Okay.
baby. Like reckless. Full steam ahead. I mean, definitely like, oh crap, like some expletives in my mind. Like,
Yes.
golly, like I didn't even get to tap. I was bummed out. I felt like I didn't even get to tap into my fitness because the nausea stopped me from doing that. The gut issues stopped me from tapping into what I had worked so hard from like kind of late January to June, this whole like this massive block that I prepared for mentally. I knew that I was all in and there, like you would have to drag me off the course in order for me to stop. I was committed. I was registered. I knew I was going to try no matter what, but it did make me nervous because I was like, oh my gosh, what if this keeps happening? But then I was like, oh no, maybe this was just like a one-time thing, you know? And so, yeah.
So how did you recover? You had what, like 5 weeks?
I think between the first, because that was early June, and then mid-July for Vermont 100.
So maybe like 6 weeks.
It might have even been 6 on that first one. It was
6.
at least 5. So no running whatsoever. On my plan, it was 7 to 10 days. I think I did a easy run on a week out. And my legs felt fine. My heart rate was low. It was like 3 to 5 miles. And then I did the same thing. So the way that I kind of approached my recovery between all the races was a week off. If you want to hop on the spin bike or go on a walk or a hike with your kids, really easy. Like I did a little bit of that just to help with the soreness and the fatigue. But the focus was extra sleep, extra calories, nutrient dense food, lots of water, lots of supplements, red light and cryo. And then kind of reintroduce running to my body that second week every other day. And not a lot, like never more than 5 miles, just like reminding my legs. And then about 2 weeks out, I'd start to put in strides, no workouts yet. And like, see how my body responded to like, not even like fast strides, like a tempo effort stride, like remind my legs they had some turnover. And then kind of as I got the green light and as I noticed my heart rate would go back down, you know, I just want to make sure my resting heart rate, I wanted to see data that my body was recovered, not just my mind. Because it's really easy to get carried away in your mind. Because I'm doing the Grand Slam, man. Like I got to be running. So we had this whole group of Grand Slam athletes. And a lot of them were like out grinding 3-4 days after the races. And I'm like, that's good for you. I've never been that way though. And I don't get stressed when I take breaks. Maybe I err on too much of the side of big breaks. I would say if anything, I err on that side than the other. And so sometimes I will have to play a little bit of catch up rebuilding fitness, but I'd rather it be that way than me get injured or me feel burned out. Because I don't deal with a lot of injury or burnout. And I think that's because I'm pretty generous with my recovery. And I feel like it helps me. It's good all around. So I would say 2 weeks of massive recovery and then kind of a 3 week. I fit in, I think, 2 long runs and then maybe 3 workouts, like not hardly anywhere. So from the point of Grand Slam on, in my mind, I had built all the fitness that I can build. It was about maintaining what I built and recovering. That's it. I had no delusions of grandeur that I was going to like build up my threshold or get faster. It was like, girlfriend, the work was done. Like your bed was made in June. Yeah. Really, like it's like too little too late. So it was just about maintaining the fitness that I had. And truthfully, that recovery process between each race, I lost a little fitness every time. And I knew that would happen.
Yeah.
And maybe for some people who recover a little quicker, maybe they would have a different story to tell. But for me, knowing my body, knowing that I'm not the athlete that's going to get 10 to 12 hours of sleep a night, like I'm momming first. Yeah. I am momming first. So guess what? If we had something with the kids that I needed to prepare for, like I've got 6 hours of sleep going. And so I'm not going to be silly and go, do a workout the next morning.
15,
I'm not gonna go crank out. Run as fast as you have strength, and be okay knowing that, on paper, if I was to have created the perfect Grand Slam training cycle, I would have done more. But that literally wasn't an option for me. Yeah. So you do the best with what you have.